Hi, everybody. Welcome to Next to Media. I'm Mike Shields. My guest this week is Jay Friedman. He's the CEO of Goodway Group. Hey, Jay, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Great to be here.
Excited to talk to you because there is a lot going on in our world. I have some specifics that I wanted to get into with you. Your name comes up a lot in all these interesting reports that have been kind of shaking up the industry. But where do we start? I'm thinking it is hard to avoid the Google elephant in the room for a number of reasons. So we can jump in there. Well, let's try and break this into pieces if we can. Where are you? What's your take on the antitrust verdict and whether that is going to mean anything right away, knowing that there is still a process to come here?
Yeah. So I would break the Google situation down into a couple pieces. I think first we have to remember a lot of the industry centers around the very ad techy specific parts of it, but Google is a much bigger ecosystem.
Yes. I tried to make this point it's hard if you're looking at it through just the lens of, those three pieces of ad tech, it's one thing, but there's a much bigger thing going on here.
You're right. And so, in Goodway Group, having everything from a consultancy down to a performance marketing group, like we have to look at this at very, very different levels. And so I think one is certainly the ad techy, essentially like where will GAM end up and how will that, it change the publisher's model. But the reality is Google has a number of different ecosystems. We have to remember a couple of things. Number one, Google didn't really build much. Google acquired Overture to
invite. Yeah.
Invite, a DoubleClick.
It's true.
Right.
YouTube. I mean, yeah, you can go on and on.
Pretty much Android, literally almost everything was acquired. And so now it was acquired in probably the most strategic, brilliant way that any American business has ever been built. But we are where we are because of acquisitions.
Yeah.
And those acquisitions, it is the back channeling of data. It's the undersea data cables that Google has between Android and Maps and YouTube and search and display and GAM and everything else that makes it so unstoppable. Right. And so I don't believe, and I'm not a legal expert clearly, but, I don't believe that all of that is up for discussion, right, with either of the judges.
Meaning that they're not going to rock the entire company and all their pieces in one shot, even with these two big trials that we're getting at?
Yeah, I think the search trial is going to go after the, really the crux of it, unfortunately, is like this Apple payment or whatever.
Yeah, paying to be the default search engine, which at this point is the market share is what it is, right? Like it's pretty hard to put that back in the bottle.
Yeah, it just makes Google $18 or $20 billion richer.
Yeah.
And is unlikely to change much. So I think there's one thing there, even if they do force a Chrome spinoff or a Chrome and a Chromebook or even an Android or something like that. You still have so much with YouTube and search and YouTube TV now, right? Like, which I think they did create. So kudos there.
There was sort of a model for that. It's called cable, but yes, well done.
Yeah. So, and they did buy Motorola, which I think had some cable elements to it. The challenge there is like Judge, I think his name's Mehta, is dealing with that. And then Brinkman is dealing with just essentially the GAM DV360 AdX component.
Yes.
And really YouTube's not a part of this, which is a sacred cow within Google. Right. And so the reality of dealing with all of the aspects, I think there's two components. One, there's, prior to 2020, they still had an amazing stack and breadth of things that were all tied together.
Yeah.
But now that's all been used to train Gemini. And Gemini is kicking ass.
It's already trained. You can't untrain it.
Right. And so absent breaking apart multiple parts of Google and absent breaking out any AI Gemini and what's been trained, I feel like they have 4 trains running down the track, and even if 2 of them get taken out, they've still got 2 with a whole lot of time.
Right. I tried to wrap my head around this. there's the like, what changes in the programmatic ecosystem tomorrow if they just spin those things off?
Sure.
And it's probably good news for other DSPs and SSPs and other exchanges, I guess. But I don't know that it hurts Google all that much. And I don't know how it's hard how do regulators remedy the challenges of today when they're working on cases that were unfolded over 15 years? That's to me is the problem.
Yeah. So, and I've seen a lot of LinkedIn comments about like, if there was regulation, and I think if you look at like the SEC and the EPA and other regulatory components of the government, like I think they have a really good win percentage when they go after something, but the amount they don't go after.
Yeah.
Is tremendous. And so I don't,
they only go after you if they've got the goods. It seems like, if they've got the emails and the statements and those kind of things.
Right. And so I think Google or Meta or anybody could have 100 wrongdoings in the future, even if regulated. And 3 of those might get pursued.
Right.
Right. So yeah. So I think to your point about the ad tech ecosystem itself, I think publishers probably get hurt short term, right? Because Google is driving enough demand to supply enough oxygen so that nobody dies and gets strangled on the publisher side. And if that becomes disintermediated, Google is certainly likely to overcut, like, and overbias things elsewhere. PMax will get a boost inside Google.
Right.
Right. But the other question, I think one of the things I think a lot of people are holding up the flag for the open internet of publishers, web publishers.
Yeah. It's like a populist cause right now. And those guys are much more concerned about search traffic and AI than who owns GAM or whatever, or AdX, I think.
Yeah. Yes. And I think not Google. I think, let's say there are 1,040,000 websites. That means there are probably 1 million more websites than we really need. And so, as one of the smarter guys that I've ever met in the industry said to me, if you're looking for a chicken parm recipe, it's really hard to create a site that has an advantage.
Yeah.
Right. And so most publishers out there don't serve a niche.
They don't need, I hate to say, they don't need to exist. I hate to say that, but yeah.
Right. And the business model of today is not to go build a website first and then build your media empire. Right. Today it is be a creator first and either be on Substack and build from there, or be on YouTube and TikTok and build from there. And so
it's not text-based recipes, unfortunately, or
it's not. And so
as a text person, that hurts me, but yes.
Yeah, well, I understand. Well, that's why we're speaking. But I hope this goes on. No. But I think, you look at one of the most successful publisher brands recently is Mr. Beast.
Yeah. And
he's not a publisher at all. I mean, he is, but he's not
in a traditional sense. No.
And so I think this whole save the publisher, I think we do need to save the free internet and everything around that. But I do think we also need to recognize that you can build a brand across whatever platform exists to communicate socially. And that's very valuable.
And are your clients, sure, every brand is purpose driven and pro journalism, but are they sitting around like, I got to save the internet? I'm so worried about these small creators, or they're got to deal with their business.
They got to deal with their business.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of other angles to the Google. Amidst all this, then Google finally says, you know what? We're never going to we're keeping the cookie forever. All that stuff we've been talking about for like 5 years isn't happening. There's a million angles there, but is your reaction like, who the hell cares? We've been moving on anyway. Is it, probably really not good news if you've been building an ideal alternative or something else, but what is your initial thought there?
Yeah, I don't know that it matters tremendously to the alternative ID people. I think it's probably a little bit bad for retail media. Because retail media became immensely valuable. It is not a coincidence that
because they had ID, not just because it's good, like because they were great timing.
Yeah. So retail media is great. No question.
Yeah.
And ITP hit in 2017 or whatever it was. And then ATT hit. And there's no coincidence that retail media swooped in right around that time.
Right.
And I think a lot of like retailer boards don't understand that that was a replacement for a lot of Apple. So
like they were lucky and good. Yeah.
Correct. And instead think my site is the most valuable thing on the planet. Why aren't people paying $400, $1,000 to
Right.
So I think it's not like permanently, it's maybe modulating or whatever, if that's the right word, for retail media for a very short amount of time.
Interesting.
So that's one thing. I think then, I think it just continues to support what's existing. I think it's more or less false attribution that people will continue to rely on. But the most important thing is Google doesn't do anything without thinking 5 steps ahead, maybe.
Yeah.
12. And my guess is that this is primarily to hold as a negotiating chip, in one of these trials.
Oh, so that's it. I hadn't thought about that. I thought maybe this was more about throwing their hands up. This is never going to make the regulators happy, but they can actually hold on to it and say, fine, this is the time we'll do it. We're ready. So the sandbox might not be dead.
Right. It gets hibernation or whatever.
Right.
But I think as part of this, the Brinkman trial, the ad techie trial, I think this just becomes a negotiating chip. Well, listen, what we can do is we can deprecate cookies once and for all. We said we weren't going to. This would really disappoint the industry, but we do have the power to give consumers.
We got something to give you, Meta or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very confusing that one of the judges is named Meta, by the way. Okay. I want to shifting gears a little bit. There's been a string of stories. Let's just go back to more negativity about the open web.
I love
about
yes.
analytics finding all sorts of horrible things, whether it's ads next to child unsafe stuff, the verification companies not doing what they're supposed to be doing, YouTube stuff that was undisclosed or non-transparent. Your name comes up. You are in these stories sometimes. Can tell us how this seems like maybe something you care about. Why are you involved here? Give us how do you get involved, and what is your feeling on where this is going?
So the part about this, I'd say there's 2 parts about this that I don't love that it has to happen. Right. Number one, it only happens because there are people who I believe are intentionally being ignorant or intentionally looking away and letting bad stuff happen. I am not a crusader. In fact, my attorney, when I was, prior to testifying in the Google trial, they said to me,
wait, give people some background. You were part of that. We should have led with that one, but tell us how that came about. Yeah.
Yeah. DOJ reached out to me and just said, hey, we've seen a lot of your opinions out there and we want to.
Was it on Signal?
No. It was through my attorney. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. As you said, these things are 15 years old.
Right.
But my attorney made it very clear to me. He said, you don't have a dog in this hunt, and your job is not to build the DOJ's case for them, nor Google's case for them. Your job is to just give the facts that and leave. And I said, you know what? You're dead right. Cause I don't love one or the other.
Which is a weird, in the ad industry, you're supposed to be selling something or promoting something. That's kind of a weird neutrality role to play.
Well, it's funny because agent is the root of the word agency.
Yeah.
And so you're supposed to be neutral. You're supposed to provide neutrality to your clients as a component of the value. And so that gets us right back to these analytics reports, which is neutrality is a component of our value. We're not I sat across the table from a vendor who said, how much do you need to do more business with us? I literally didn't understand the question.
Yeah.
And so I know there are a ton of agencies out there that take payment kickbacks, whatever it may be. We just don't do that. And so I think because of that enables me to comment on some of these stories without fear of retribution.
Your hands are clean. You don't have anything to get you on.
Well, nor do I risk losing money.
Right.
Right. Like it's not like my rebate will go away next month because I didn't have one to begin with.
Right.
So, so I think there's that component. I do think people are willfully and intentionally looking the other way and really mischarging people and misrepresenting their products, which again, I don't know. I don't walk down the boardwalk at the Jersey Shore and tell the guy doing 3-card Monte that, like, I don't think he's being fair. Like, I don't have a crusade, to pick here. But it does cost advertisers millions of dollars, and they are led to believe things that aren't true.
Yeah, and you mean who is misrepresenting? Are you talking about the verification companies? Are you talking about the exchanges who have all these protections? Lots of different players. Who is like misrepresenting what they can do?
I think anything that's been. Let me say this: I don't think Analytics is 100% right about everything they publish.
Yeah,
but there's something there. It is not just smoke.
And they don't have an axe to grind. They don't have they're on the side of the advertiser and the buyer, right? But they're not out to get specific parties in your mind.
I don't think so. And people say, well, who's really paying Analytics? And I don't know who's paying Analytics.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think as it relates to that, yeah, all of the targets of those analytics reports, I think have probably misrepresented or willfully hidden some information somehow or another. I don't think that's good. I think that rather than cleaning up their act, they shot back. And I don't think that's all that.
Right.
But there are a few crusaders out there that, they're bad, they're good. I don't care who's bad and good. I just want my clients to have the truth.
Yeah.
And to be able to make informed decisions. And it's challenging when you have companies who are worth billions or trillions that are willfully out there and obfuscating information that would help them make a good decision.
So do you think it's hard? Because part of me said, like, you read these reports, oh my God, this is crazy. But then it feels like it's been 10 years of shocking fraud reports of different variations that don't feel as shocking over time. Will this have an impact? Like, I wonder if brands are going to finally say, I'm not even going to touch some of this open exchange stuff ever again. Or is it just another thing that gets shoved aside and the market goes on?
Yeah, I read the story of the London air raid sirens in World War II, where the first siren went off, everybody scurried into the, by the 10th siren, they were like, I'm busy shopping,
Right.
And
it's just part of life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, my advice on the analytics or other, anyone who's trying to go down that route is just focus on signing up clients who will listen to you and clean up their stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think continuing to publish these reports, while juicy and while true in many cases, I just don't know that they are. I guess it depends. If 10 brands are calling analytics after every report and signing up, then I guess it's going well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening in the shadows. You don't really know what's going on. But yeah, that could be a game changer if it's just not public, but we don't know.
Right.
All right, let's get out of the nitty gritty programmatic scandal world. Let's talk big picture. It's a huge issue where, we're talking in late April. There's the economy has been uncertain for several weeks with the imposition of all these tariffs. I don't know if the full pricing impact has hit shoppers yet, but people are nervous because you've seen it in consumer confidence, things like that. What's going on with you, with the market, with your clients? Are you scenario playing, cutting, trying to wait? What's the temperature like?
Yeah, so there's not cutting yet. There's definitely scenario planning. And I think the challenge is, and this, if we do talk about AI at all,
we will.
I think one of the biggest benefits of AI will be debiasing, decision making. And so I think right now, so if you look at one of our clients, super smart, my eye doctor. So they have 800 and some, eye doctor locations around the country.
Uh-huh.
And, I think if we think about it from their marketing partner, their agency lens, and we think, okay, well, but if your eyes are bad, you're going to have to go to the doctor, right? But you may think that, but at the same time, if you look at in COVID, how many elective surgeries were delayed, postponed, and elective might have meant you can't move your shoulder.
Right. It wasn't like getting work done in your nose necessarily.
Correct. And so the amount of things across the board that are elective, are choice based, and can be traded down out of. Right. And so I think Walmart often thinks, that they are, we're great partners of Walmart, but they think like, we're the low cost leader. I understand that, but there's buying less. And
right. It's not just the guys who have good prices win when people just pull back in general.
And there are parts of and we also work with Dollar General. There's parts of the countries where you're 1.5 miles from a Dollar General and 25 miles from a Walmart.
Yeah.
Right. And so the gas alone for a small trip doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. And so there's a lot of factors. And so I think a lot of that, but we'll be okay, but we're in really big trouble, can be debiased through AI and through just smart strategic AI thought partnership.
So a couple of thoughts there, because you've seen the early, again, it's very early. You've think about that.
Right. And so now that we have the benefit of Ray Dalio's, all of Ray Dalio's books and writings about the great cycles and the small cycles, we can load all that up and start asking questions rather than to make an assumption and basing $100 million decisions off of
it. There's been lots to talk about the growth of, as much as generative AI is exciting, AI media buying has happened faster, or seeming at a bigger impact faster. Do you think the tariff economy is like the pandemic accelerated certain things? Does this accelerate the use of those tools?
I don't know. I think the challenge is, number one is changing people's behavior. Right. And this is one of the reasons I love advertising, is because the objective is to influence someone's behavior. And I think the most poorly understood phenomena in the universe are like deep space physics and string theory and human behavior. And like, as much as we think we understand human behavior, like they run some experiment where, you can have $1 or you can take $10 away from the guy you don't like and give it to charity. And like universally people would be like, take it away from the guy I don't,
Right.
And so the human behavior component of change management and transformation, the holding companies, they do some things really well. I think there's a lot they don't do well, but they're not going to lose all of the major brands overnight because they haven't transformed fast enough.
Yeah.
And so there is a really important change management component of this. The other thing is, I will tell you, I am as steeped in AI as anybody. I literally I think it is the next electricity, the next internet, whatever it is. The value that comes from AI, like we've had automation forever. We've had business process automation. The consultancies have been doing that forever.
Right.
The fact that you can now type launch my meta campaign rather than click launch the meta campaign. Okay, cool. Right. But I don't think that in and of itself is changing the world. The whole MCP, it's multi-context protocol, I think, component of protocolizing, if that's a word, probably not, of the agentic space will be a massive deal, because I think like most people probably don't know what HTTP stands for. right?
Yeah, they recognize it, but they couldn't tell you what it means. Yeah.
Nor do they know what it serves, right? But like,
Right.
it's a protocol that allows web pages to communicate with the browser. TCP/IP on the email end allows communication. And so the protocol component of AI and agents is going to be massive. So, yeah.
Okay. So then, and this, I guess we'll wrap on this one. Talk about the least AI, more human behavior event that I can think of is the upfronts are really coming at a weird time. What will that be like amidst the tariff thing hovering over us and what you're describing about all this need for transformation?
Yeah. So I will tell you, I am like very buy side, in my mentality.
Yeah.
If I am a really large advertiser right now, I believe I'm holding the chips, and I'm holding the chips because if I normally commit X hundreds of millions of dollars to this publisher for upfront, or even, 50 million or whatever it is, I think that can wait. And
you
I
got the cards right now, and
yeah, and we are advising. Wait,
that's interesting.
What's waiting 2 months going to do? And I think you can slow play this. So that's number one. Number two is, if I'm a CPG or anything sold through retail, I am trying to approach my upfront with every publisher with as much retail data as I can.
You need more information before you can make calls right now.
And the idea that, I love the folks over at NBC Universal, and they've really been open to like leaning in and working on something like this. I think that if I am a CPG brand, I want Dollar General or Walmart or Target or whatever it may be to come to NBC Universal with me and to help set me up with data-driven everything.
Yeah.
You talk to, you talk to the dog food brand, and one of the CMOs said, if I ever show another ad to someone who doesn't have a dog, right? And I think at a minimum, you could work across some retailers to funnel to all the major CTV providers, the major audio providers. Just, can we cut out all the people who don't have dogs?
Right.
Right. And I think there is the opportunity for CPGs right now to be so much more strategic in their upfronts. It's not happening yet.
Right. So what you're describing does not lend itself to going fast and just making huge deals and locking stuff up. It's much more like, let's take our time and rethink how we do this thing.
Yeah. And it contrasts with the Byron Sharp of just get the reach.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I think it depends. Like, for bread, you might just want the reach. Maybe you suppress the gluten-free folks or something.
Yeah.
But I think there are enough CPGs out there that would benefit from a more strategic approach. Right. And, we're working on it with brands, but it's a change.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the kind of thing that nudges them forward.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jay, awesome stuff. We talk forever about these million topics, but thanks so much for your time, and let's do this again sometime.
You got it. Thank you.